Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you today? I hope you are fine. Today, Misika want to teach you about the new chapter, chapter 15 in your book. That's about perpendicular and parallel line. Okay, are you ready with your book? Let's continue our study. Look at the picture here. Okay. This is perpendicular and parallel line. Do you know what the mean of line? Line, it's mean garis. There are three kinds of line. Parallel line, perpendicular line, and intersecting line. What is parallel line? Parallel line, if two lines will never meet. Look at, this is two lines have the same distance and the same arrow, and that is never meet. So you call it parallel line. Next, perpendicular lines. It means garis tegak lurus. If two lines that cross at 90 degree or make a right angle, so you call it perpendicular line. Look at the picture here. This is two lines that cross at 90 degree. Still remember, this is 90 degree or right angle. So you call it, that is perpendicular line. How about intersecting line? Intersecting line, it means garis berpotongan. If two lines intersect each other, so you call it intersecting line. Look at this picture. That is two lines intersect each other in this point. So you call it this, that is intersecting line. Okay, are you understand about perpendicular and parallel line? If you want to know more about perpendicular and parallel line, please watching my video next.
Hi, and welcome to this Corporate Maths primary video on parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Let's start off with parallel lines. Two lines that are always the same distance apart are called parallel lines. The two lines go in the same direction and they will never meet each other, and they're shown by two arrows, one on each line, here and here. Some examples of parallel lines are these railway tracks. They say the same distance apart. The lines on this page, as you can see, the lines that you'd be writing on, they're parallel to each other. Even these yellow lines, these double yellow lines on a road, they say the same distance apart, so they're parallel. Okay, so that's parallel lines. Have a look in the room you're in right now and see what parallel lines you can see in the room you're in. Okay, perpendicular lines. So two lines that cross each other at 90 degrees at a right angle are called perpendicular lines. So as you can see, we've got this line, and this little pink box shows they cross at 90 degrees, so they're perpendicular to each other. Some examples of perpendicular lines, well, this dead end sign, which you might see on a road, this white line and this red line are perpendicular, they meet at 90 degrees. These bricks, the joints in them, the mortar joining them, you can see here this line and this line are at 90 degrees to each other, so they're perpendicular. Even a set of axes, the x-axis and the y-axis, if you've learned coordinates or study coordinates, they meet at 90 degrees, so they're perpendicular to each other. So parallel lines are two lines which stay the same distance apart and they never meet, and perpendicular lines are lines that cross each other at 90 degrees, and they have to cross at 90 degrees or meet at 90 degrees, and then they would be perpendicular.
You'll find lines that are perpendicular on a rectangle's perimeter. Or let's break it down even simpler. They make right angles in particular.
Parallel lines never meet. Intersecting lines make V's. Perpendicular lines meet at 90 degrees. Put your hands in the air with me. Parallel, intersecting, perpendicular, they're rectangular.
let's talk about detecting if two lines are intersecting. It's the term that we select if at any point two lines connect.
Parallel lines never meet. Intersecting lines make V's. Perpendicular lines meet at 90 degrees. Put your hands in the air with me. Parallel, intersecting, perpendicular, they're rectangular.
When two lines will never touch, then you can tell that those two lines are parallel. Like these telephone wires up above the street, parallel lines will never meet.
Parallel lines never meet. Intersecting lines make V's. Perpendicular lines meet at 90 degrees. Put your hands in the air with me. Parallel, intersecting, perpendicular, they're rectangular.
Okay, next we continue our lesson chapter 16 about area and perimeter. Look at this picture. What is this? This is rectangle. Huh? The perimeter of a figure is the total length around it. The perimeter is mean keliling dari suatu bangun. Ya. The square meter and square centimeter are a unit of measure for area. Area is mean luas. Area is the amount of surface covered by the tiles. Look at this picture. This is 1 square unit. And this is 1 square unit divided 2. It is a half square unit. If we combine, it become 1 square unit. Okay. We continue our lesson. Please watching our video about area and perimeter.
Area. Area is the measurement of a space or region occupied by a closed figure. You can simply say that area tells us how big is the figure. We need something to measure area. Let's use the cm square. It is a square having all sides equal to 1 centimeter long. We have a figure. How many squares can the figure fill up? Let's do it. The figure can fill up 18 squares. We can say the area of the figure is 18 square. 1 square is represented by 1 centimeter square. 18 squares will give us 18 centimeter square. The area of the figure is 18 centimeter square. Let's talk about perimeter. Perimeter can be defined as the distance around a closed figure. It concerns only external surrounding but not the space occupied within. You can say it tells us the total length surrounded the figure. Now we shall measure all the length surrounding the figure. Let's find the perimeter of the figure. To find the perimeter, add up all the lengths of the figure. The perimeter of the figure is 20 centimeters. Remember, for perimeter, We do not use same square as used for area. Now we are going to touch on the area of rectangle. Let's get a rectangle and fill up with the squares of 1 centimeter. We can break them into 3 different rows. For every row, it comprises of 5 squares. To find total number of squares, we can multiply 3 by 5, which result as 15. There are 15 squares inside the rectangle. To find the area, we can apply the same concept. The longest side is known as length, which is 5 centimeters. The shorter side is known as breadth, which is 3 centimeters. To find the area of rectangle, we simply multiply length by the breadth, just like having the number of rows multiplied by the number of squares in each row. We have the result as 15 centimeters square. Perimeter of rectangle. If you are given the length and breadth of the rectangle, it is very easy to find the perimeter of the rectangle. The rectangle made up of two similar longer side, which is known as length, and 2 similar shorter side, which is known as breadth. To get the perimeter, instead of adding up all the sides, we simply add only the length and breadth and then multiply by 2. Area and perimeter of a square. If you know the length of any side of the square, you can find the perimeter and area of it. The 4 sides of the square are of equal size. So if it is 5 centimeters, then all sides are also 5 centimeters. The area is therefore length multiplied by the breadth. Both length and breadth are the same side, so we multiply by the same number. 5 times 5 give us 25. To find the perimeter, we simply multiply by 4 instead of having to add up all the sides. 5 times 4 give us 20.
Ha! Now that we learned how to measure in centimeters and meters, and we talked about inches and feet. That's right. Now we're gonna talk about with perimeter. You have to measure each side, add them up, and we find perimeter, perimeter. That's perimeter, perimeter, perimeter. That's perimeter. With perimeter, you have to measure each side, add them up, and we find perimeter, perimeter. That's perimeter, perimeter, perimeter. That's perimeter. With perimeter, you have to measure each side, add them up, and we find perimeter. Perimeter, 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 that's perimeter. With perimeter, you have to measure each side one at a time. Write them down, add them up, and what do you find? Perimeter, that's perimeter. Perimeter, perimeter, that's perimeter. With perimeter, you have to measure each side one at a time. Write them down, add them up, and what do you find? Perimeter, that's perimeter. Perimeter, perimeter, that's perimeter. With perimeter, you have to measure each side, add them up, and we find perimeter, perimeter, that's perimeter, 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 that's perimeter. perimeter, you have to measure each side, add them up, and we find perimeter, perimeter, that's perimeter, 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 that's perimeter.
Finish watching the video. If you finish watching the video, please do your task in Google Classroom about perpendicular and parallel line and area and perimeter. Are you ready? Okay. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.